Hi, it's that fantasy chick back again with another stream. It's a Wednesday, which means we're going to be talking about the X Files and basically rounding up the end of season one. So it's the 30th anniversary of X Files, and I've been rewatching the show since it's been on Freevee, and I've sort of zoomed through season one and about to talk about the last six episodes, but before I get to that, um, have some news on Jonathon Majors and his legal troubles. And wanted to talk about him because, of course, he is Kang in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And most recently, He Who Remains in Loki. But He Who Remains also becomes, you know, he's a variant of Kang. So, um, do 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 do. So I have, of course, an article. This is from the Hollywood Reporter, and okay. So, judge denies motion to dismiss case against Jonathan Majors, paving way for trial. Hmm. Sorry. A trial date for Majors on misdemeanor harassment and assault charges is set for November 29th. New York Judge Michael Gaffey rejected the defense's motion to dismiss the misdemeanor assault and harassment charges facing Marvel actor Jonathan Majors on Wednesday, clearing the way for a November 29th trial. The defense additionally filed a motion under seal requesting that certain evidentiary matter continue to be under seal or outside of public view. The defense argued that this evidence contains sensitive information that could jeopardize Major's right to a fair trial. The state did not take a position on the motion, and Gaffey told press in the courtroom that they could submit papers in opposition to this by November 6th. Majors appeared in court virtually. As the judge mentioned, he is currently out of state. Majors faces four misdemeanor charges of harassment and assault after being arrested following an alleged domestic violence incident March 25th. Police responded to a 911 call where a 30-year-old woman who has since been identified as Grace Jabari reported being assaulted by Majors, with police noting that she had sustained minor injuries. Majors was released from police custody later that day. In June, the Loki actor filed a cross complaint against Jabari, alleging that she attacked him that night. His attorney, Priya Chaudhry, has denied all wrongdoing on behalf of her client and said that he had called 911 out of concern for Jabari's mental health. Gaffey said Wednesday that he will issue a new order of protection barring Majors and Jabari from having contact. According to court documents filed in relation to the case, an investigatory card or I-card, which is not an arrest warrant but rather an NYPD document alerting officers that there is probable cause for an arrest, was also issued for Jabari in late June in relation to the cross complaint. However, prosecutors on the case have informed police, defense, and Jabari that they will not be prosecuting Jabari in relation to the incident. Citing the belated nature of the allegations as well as the process of evaluating cross complaints in domestic violence cases. Chaudhry filed a motion to dismiss the case September 12th, which, along with the state's response, was evaluated by the judge in New York Criminal Court on Wednesday. The defense's motion claimed that the state withheld and buried evidence, which would support claims of Major's innocence and potentially cast suspicion on Jabari as she testifies, and interfered with the NYPD's investigation into Jabari. They also alleged that the state did not disclose communications with the NYPD or any benefits discussed in relation to not prosecuting Jabari, and the defense alleged there were missing 911 calls, among other items. All of this also interfered with Major's right to a speedy trial, the defense said, which requires the state to be ready within 90 days of when the action commenced. The state has accrued more than 100 chargeable days, they argue. On Wednesday, Gaffey ruled that only 71 days has passed. Among the allegations, the defense also claimed that the state did not initially provide a copy of the iCard authorizing Jabari's arrest in June, and also did not disclose what defense says was the state's purported attempt to deactivate the open NYPD iCard and urged the NYPD not to investigate or charge Jabari, as well as any other benefits they have conferred upon Jabari. In response, prosecutors stated that the NYPD first told the defense counsel they had authorized an iCard authorizing the victim's arrest on June 23rd, but police did not inform prosecution until late August. Further, prosecutors countered that a wanted flyer issued in connection with the iCard featured a photo of Jabari provided by the defense, proving that the team was aware of the iCard's existence. Additionally, they denied any allegations of directing the NYPD to issue or deactivate an iCard. As far as potential benefits offered to Jabari, the prosecution disclosed that it would pay for the travel and lodging for Jabari, who is a British resident, so that she can testify at the trial. The decision not to prosecute Jabari, which was disclosed to the state, is not a benefit, as the defense has argued, but rather a routine decision as part of the case, they say. Prosecutors also disputed the elapsed time, saying only 34 chargeable days have elapsed rather than the 100 claimed by the defense, and that the state had argued it provided all relevant evidence, including phone records, medical records, surveillance video from 8 locations, photographs, and text messages sent by witnesses, and that it was not buried but properly labeled. Overall, the two parties disagree on the perpetrators of the event. While Chaudhry has claimed her client is innocent and that Jabari was the aggressor, the state claims that the events of March 25th began when the two were riding in a car and Jabari saw a message on Major's phone that read, "Wish I was kissing you right now," and reached over to grab the phone. Majors then allegedly grabbed her hand, twisted her forearm, struck her ear, and later threw her back inside the car after she exited. Jabari sustained substantial pain, including a fractured finger, bruising about her body, a laceration behind her right ear, and a bump on her head, according to the court docs. In June, Chaudhry said she was requesting a quick trial date for Majors in order to speed up the case. Majors has appeared in court both virtually and in person across the past several months. On September 6th, prosecutors said they were ready for trial and have filed a certificate of compliance, but attorneys for Majors said they found deficiencies with the certificate, leading them to file the motion to dismiss. Do. This going to trial is a wrap for Kang. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. They let that Flash actor Ezra Miller get away with everything, though. So what we doing? Just want to say I'm totally against DV. It's a plague of society, but I gotta know if he really did it before we scrap a whole character. I don't know. I don't know if he really did it. The other day, I saw I saw actual I saw someone did a YouTube video that showed the actual surveillance video of right after the event, where she's supposed to have this broken finger and laceration behind the ear, and I saw neither of those things. I saw neither the laceration behind her ear nor this nor even a hurt finger. Um, so don't know, and including part of the tape, you see Majors walk right by her, look her in the face, but keep walking. Says nothing to her, does not approach her, keeps walking, looking for his car. This is what I saw with my own two eyes. Mm. You're about to give us some Wayne Brady asking. I'm not going to be happy. Um, I remember people were floating. People got jumped the gun many times and was floating replacement names, and one of them was that British dude. What's his name? Damson Idris. Is that his name? I think they floated his name. Who else? What else name did they float? They floated a couple of names out there that that people were saying, "Oh, he's in the talks to be king," and I was like, "No, he's not." And here's how I know he's not: because of what happened with James Gunn. Disney fired James Gunn, and then when the smoke cleared, they hired him back. And Disney hasn't even fired Jonathon Majors yet. They're waiting for, and this is not even a felony charge. This is a misdemeanor charge. Not saying it's worse, it's better, or it's worse. I'm just saying Disney hasn't fired him yet. I'm not trying to be funny, but if Marvel wanted to take care of this, they would. He pissed somebody off. OMG, Damson dude from Snowfall Too Young face for the role. But you know how people on the internet be. They get attached to an idea. I'm pretty sure that was the name they floated. Um, and it was somebody else whose name I can't remember. There's only so many black dudes for them to choose from. Uh, Especially so many black dudes who's hot right now. Um, I don't think, say, Marvel wanted to take care of this. In order for I don't know how true this statement is. Maybe in the pre-Me Too world, Marvel could have shut this down, but in the post-Me Too world, there is no way they are shutting this down. There's no way they can go in and shut this down. I don't believe it. I don't believe in a post-Me Too world that they can shut this down. The only way they could have shut this down is if Grace Jabari was an actress, and she's not an actress. If she was somebody, if she was some sort of actress, an up and coming actress with no voice and nobody on her side, maybe they would have been able to shut this down. But even people with no voice and no one on their side gets on Twitter and tweet out their story, and next thing you know, they've gone viral. So it's like, it's hard in the post Me Too world for a studio to wipe clean, you know, any misdeeds or any accusations of misdeeds. This is not going away because they want it to. Yeah, yeah, dude, the only acceptable replacement for me. All right, post Me Too is a wrap. Have you ever heard rumors that Jonathon Majors was hard to work with on set type stuff? No, I haven't heard rumors about him being hard to work with. But when all of this broke out, all of a sudden people just started to come out the woodwork saying, oh, yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. He's this. It's like everyone was quiet until this accusation came, and then all of a sudden he's this secret monster nobody had ever heard of before. So he was secretly a monster until one accusation came out, and then all of a sudden people who so-called knew him, you know, before was like, I'm not surprised. But I don't know these people who are saying that they know him. I can't give much credence to what they say, because people get on the internet and lie. They get on the internet and lie, especially when they want to look important. So I don't know. I don't know what to believe right now. I don't know what to believe right now. But as far as Yaya, that's an idea. I mean, he's been wiped out of the DC since it's been completely reset. So there's no more Manta movies for him. Uh, that's a shame. That's a shame. But yeah, he's out of the DC now, so that'll pave the way for him to make it into Marvel. But and he may be a decent Kane. He may be a decent Kane. So you never know. You never know. I think he has the range to pull it off. Yaya has the face and that type of bravado Jonathon Majors got. I think it would be a seamless transition. What? Rosario Dawson. What? Okay. All right. Now you just drink it. Um. Okay. So yeah. I don't know what to think. I'm waiting to see the trial and to see what comes out in the trial. And especially waiting to see what this evidence the defense wants to cover up. Because no matter what happens and how they cover up, it's going to come out in the trial. So we're going to find out what this evidence is. And if he's innocent, he needs better lawyers, because my goodness, they could have cleared. If he's innocent, they really should have cleared him by now. But goodness gracious. uh, I don't know. His lawyers was sort of making it worse for a while. When it first hit, his lawyers was making it worse. So I don't know. Like I said, all I know is the from the video that I saw with my own eyes, I couldn't tell, like I couldn't see any injuries. So, and this was after the fact. This wasn't while it was happening. So you never know. The trial even happening is a problem for me if I'm Marvel. Could be, but the fact of the matter is now the that's a problem for everybody else because everybody else has dropped him. Even the army dropped him. Army dropped him like a bad habit. But I'm telling you, for whatever reason, Disney Marvel seems to be a lot of Marvel seems to be loyal. They seem to be loyal. They seem to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like I said, James Gunn, they gave him the benefit of the doubt. They fired him and then looked for no replacements and then hired him back. So I'm just, of course, James Gunn didn't have a trial. He just had some bad tweets. But the thing about it is, if they were going to drop him, they would have dropped him by now. He's already in the second season of Loki. They're building up this whole phase around him. Like, as time goes on, time to pull the trigger just keeps, you know, it just keeps passing them up. And I feel like if they were going to do it, they would have done it by now. I really think they're waiting on guilty. If he's guilty, I think they'll let him go. But I think they're waiting to hear if he's guilty. Hmm. When was Low Key filmed? I don't know when Low Key was filmed. I don't know when Low Key was filmed. Yeah, you're right. If this happened in March, this happened in March. The writer strike happened in May. This and Loki was already filmed. So Loki was already filmed by the time this happened. I think that's another reason why they're holding off. I think that's another reason why they're holding off uh dropping him because of what happened with Johnny Depp. Because now they can't do Pirates of the Caribbean with Johnny Depp because Johnny Depp was like, "You gonna have to bring out a whole trough of money to get me back." A public apology and a trough of money. So, um, yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. But this is why for many reasons, I really think they're holding off because um, you never know. They may announce when Loki is over. They may wait until Loki is over, but there's no reason for them to not have announced beforehand and be like, we just gonna burn off these last episodes. There's no reason they couldn't have dropped him and just said, well, we have, Loki was already filmed. So we got to burn off these last few episodes. We can't reshoot Loki. If they don't drop him as soon as Loki is over, I think they're waiting for Guilty. So we shall see. We shall see when Loki is over. If he is not dropped immediately, then he is not going to be dropped until his trial is over. So, okay, that is all for Jonathon Majors and all his troubles. Now for the X-Files. Um, so yeah. So the X-Files, the last 6 episodes, which was interesting to look at. So again, 5 out of the 6 episodes were Monster of the Week episodes and only 1 lore. So it was just like the 6 before, where 5 out of the 6 were Monster of the Week, and then the 6 was lore. One of them brought back a Monster of the Week, the Tombs, the guy who was like a human lizard who would rip people's livers out of their body and eat them, and then go into hibernation for 30 years. They brought him back because at the end of his first episode, Mulder and Scully caught him and they put him in a psychiatric prison. And at the beginning of this episode, them bastards let him go. They were like, "Oh, he's fine. Give him parole." And Mulder's like, "But didn't didn't you see what we told you he did? He's a murderer. You just gonna let a murderer go?" So they let him go, and of course he ended up killing the doctor who recommended that he be let go. He killed him and took his liver. So they was like he needed 5 livers in order to go into hibernation, and this was his 5th liver. So they were like, he's going into hibernation. But the building that he normally would go into hibernation into has been torn down, and some high rise has been put into his place. So Scully and Mulder go there and looking for him, and for whatever reason, Mulder realizes that he's, they was like, oh, he could be in the storage area on the 2nd floor of, a couple of floors above. But Mulder's like, no, he's down beneath the escalator. And he was right. Dude was beneath the escalator, building himself a hive. And Mulder goes down there. There's only room enough. There's like a little shaft, room enough for one person to wiggle down there. Mulder goes down there, and of course the guy attacks him, and he gets into a fight. And somehow Scully pulls Mulder back up, and the guy is coming up after him. And Mulder turns the escalator on, and the guy gets caught up in the escalator. It's gruesome and dies. It's so gross. But he dies. So we know we're not going to see him again. And we don't have to worry about him being let go because he's dead now. So, there is another episode. There's an episode where they bring in shape shifting, and they always bring in shape shifting and try to connect it with Native Americans. I've seen this on multiple TV shows where they connect shape shifting to Native Americans, and so they did it this episode where they were on an Indian reservation, and they were sort of hinting that it was the Native Americans who were shape shifting into these animals and going around killing people. But it turns out wasn't the Native Americans, was this white boy all along, and he was the killer, and killed his own father. Crazy. So when they shot him, he was an animal coming after them. They shot him as an animal, but then he shifted back into his human form after he was shot. So there was a creepy episode about people being stuck way deep into the forest, like days into over a day's ride into the forest, right? And there was something killing these people and cocooning them and sucking the life out of them. And of course, it was some deadly insects. And I think what happened is all of the people who were up there working, they all ended up dead except for one guy. And he was like, he had told them, like, we need to, because I think they got there, they found him close to darkness. And he was like, we need to stay in the light. That's the only way we're going to survive. And so they stayed in the light and they all survived. This one guy who was just not believing them goes off into his truck. They later see him. He's been cocooned and had the life sucked out of him. And so they try to make it out on the car, in a Jeep. They drive all day and they still haven't made it off the mountain, out of the forest. And it becomes nighttime again. And they hit something. And the guy gets out of the car. I don't know what he hit. But then, of course, you see it in the headlights that all of the insects start swarming him. And he runs off. And then they're in the car. And I'm like, well, you're in the car is running. Like, turn the light on in the car. Don't the car have a light? Don't they have some sort of lights in the car? Or maybe Jeeps don't have lights. I don't know. But they just sat in the dark in the Jeep, wondering what to do next until they all got swarmed. But thankfully, Mulder had some time before had made a radio call for help, and the help pack came in the next morning looking for them and found them in the Jeep, cocooned, but they hadn't had the life sucked out of them. So they lifted them out and brought them into a hotel, and brought them into a hospital. Mulder wakes up first. Scully and the other ranger who came in with them were still unconscious. But they had like rashes and whatnot all over them. It's creepy. It was so creepy because the insects were like teeny tiny little, and they looked like like green glow in the dark insects. It was just millions of them that would just come and swarm all over the body. It was horrible. Then there was an episode about this creepy little girl. And this little girl so creepy. She was like, her mom was like, something wrong with that little girl. It was like something is wrong with her. I've been through I don't know how many nannies because of her. Nobody will stay with her. Something is wrong with her. And they figure out she's been possessed by this dead, I guess he's a cop, but he's dead, and his other cop friends murdered him. Um and so she's been going by one and murdering all of you know the friends. So I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if like the ghost inside her is doing it, but somehow she and the ghost together are murdering these dudes. And it gets down to the very last dude, and somehow they convince the ghost inside her to leave him alone. And they she don't kill this one last dude. And somehow he must have found peace because they go back to the little girl. The little girl's acting like a little girl. She's not acting like a creepy little thing anymore. So she's in the pool swimming and playing and being normal and not being this creepy little, because she would just stare. She would just stare off into she was the creepiest little girl. She was like those twins from what's that movie, the Red Rum movie, The Shining. She was like the twins from The Shining. That's how creepy she was. And then there was this episode about a mentally challenged janitor who starts, um, he was a janitor inside the science lab, and he starts killing all of the other scientists in the lab, and he starts doing work on the computer and like doing all of this complicated work, like completing the scientist's work. And you find out that another scientist had died before all of these deaths happened. He was working on this project. He died, and one of the other scientists had took his work and was going to take credit for it. So he was going to take credit for it. So he was able to work through his consciousness, was able to work through the mentally challenged janitor, even though he was dead, because they're long lost twins. He got the janitor to work there. He found him. He knew he had a long lost twin. He found him, got him to work at the same lab that he worked at. Why he did this? Probably because he just wanted to be close to his brother. They never explained why. But because he was there after he died, he would basically, like a little girl, he would possess the brother and start using his body to do things. He would be the one to murder the people, and then he would use him to do all the work. So and I think they had it where his head this was back in the day when they were talking about what is it called? Cryogenics, where they were talking about, oh, we can freeze somebody and, you know, they can be thought out in the future and live on in the future. But they just froze his head, I guess, because they figured in the future, by the time they figure out how to thaw these people out and reanimate their brains, they would have been able to figure out how to attach their head to another body. It's it's real life science fiction, I guess. But so he had his head was cryogenically frozen, and the doctor who stole his research went to go basically tampered with his head and made it so that the temperature was going down and that the people in the lab could not get the temperature back up to where it was supposed to be. So he was going, he realized what the consciousness was doing. And I guess he figured if he murdered his head and kept it, and so if it wasn't in stasis anymore, then he wouldn't have to worry about him coming back. So I guess eventually he eventually does die off before he can murder that guy. But I think because of Scully and Mulder or whatnot, because of what happened, because of how he almost, because of Scully and Mulder, whatever happened, I don't think he was able to steal Homeboy's research anymore. I don't think he was able to steal his research in the end. But they make it seem like they end it in a way where you never know if he really is gone or not. He may be gone or he may still be in there in the mentally challenged brother somewhere. So they left it sort of ambiguous. And then um finally is the season finale, and that's the one episode with the lore. And it's the episode where Mulder's own personal deep throat tells him to follow this case where this dude is chased by the police and they shoot him. He jumps into the water and they dredge the water looking for the dude. They dredge it for like 3 days and they couldn't find him. And then they call off the search. Well, he was still in the water for 3 days. He comes up and he calls this doctor's house. Mulder I forget how Mulder connects the doctor to the guy, but somehow Mulder connects the doctor to the guy. I think it's probably another lead from the Deep Throat. And he goes to the guy's house. And so when the guy calls the house, Mulder is there. He answers the phone and he's like, "Oh, I'll come get you, blah, 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 blah." But he doesn't get a chance to figure out where the guy is because he's on the payphone and he falls out and somebody is walking by and they get on the phone and it's like he needs an ambulance and hangs up on them and calls 911. Like, yeah, bye. so so what ends up happening is the guy, he's been shot, instead of red blood coming out, it's green. So you're like, is this dude an alien? What's up? Is he like a shapeshifter alien? What's going on? But then you find out that he's actually human. Mulder was able to go find a storage facility where there's a whole bunch of other human guys in stasis in these tanks underwater, and they've all been experimented on using um, alien viruses. And that's what's given them the ability to stay underwater for so long. It's also cured them. Like the guy who got shot, he was dying. I think he must have had cancer or something. He was going to die, and then they shot him with this alien virus, and then boom, he's living again. So I think all of the people in the trial were terminal until they gave them this alien virus, and they were healed. And Mulder, of course, goes to show. He leaves and he goes to bring Scully back to the storage facility. And of course, by the time they get there, everything's been cleared out. Nothing is left. And they they split up. Gets somehow she gets hooked up with the Deep Throat. I can't remember how. But she tells Deep Throat they took all the evidence, because she had a vial from the doctor's lab. They found that, how they got hooked up with the doctor is he was murdered, and that's how they went in to the crime scene, and then they went to his house after the crime scene. And from the crime scene, she had picked up a vial, something from that he was experimenting on, and took it to a friend of hers. And the friend was doing tests on it to figure out what it was. And then her friend was like, "This is not of Earth." And so she went back to find the friend, and her friend and her friend's family just died in the accident, just dead. They killed her and her whole family. So Scully went back to Deep Throat. Deep Throat was like, "You the only one who can get evidence." She was like, "They took the evidence. They murdered her, and all the evidence is gone." And he was like, "No, you have, because of your medical experience, blah 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 blah." Basically, he gives her a cup. He tells her where to go to get some more evidence, and he gives her the clearance to get in, but to get into this building. And when she goes in and she pulls this thing out, it's this little alien baby in this little tube that's been, frozen or whatnot. So she has that. But Mulder, who was going to look for the guy, the original guy who had got shot and who was hiding in the water, he went to his house to go look for him. And before he can tell him, like, "Hey, I can help you," somebody else came, shot the dude. And apparently this guy, like, whenever he gets shot or stabbed or anything, like, gases expel from his body, and it sort of poisons whoever is nearby. And that's what happened to Mulder. Sort of poisoned his eyes, made his eyes swell up and swell shut. And the people came and they collected up home dude. They tied up Mulder, and then they knew Scully had got the alien body, so they they made a deal with the Deep Throat, saying, "We will exchange Mulder for the alien body." So they met up with him. He gave them back the body. They threw out Mulder. but they shot Deep Throat. So now he's dead. And the episode ends with, because one thing that Mulder did not realize was Deep Throat was keeping the X Files open. Like, they wanted to shut the X Files down, but he wouldn't allow it to happen because he wanted to keep Mulder on his little leash, and he thought it was better to do that with him on the X Files. Well, he gets shot and dies. They shut down the X Files. And this is also, was this the first episode? No, I forget. One of these, in these 6 episodes, was one of the first episodes we see ADA Skinner, assistant director, AD Skinner, assistant director Skinner. But definitely this episode. He's in this episode. So we find, like, you don't see him for almost the entire season. You don't see him till the end of the first season. So he missed out on practically the whole first season. But they shut down the X Files, and that's how the season ends. X Files been shut down, so you have to come back season 2 and see how the show was a hit by then. So of course they're gonna bring it back. You got to see how they bring it back. So, boom. Okay, so Friday, we're gonna do another video on Friday, and Monday will be another episode of Loki. And like I said, it's gonna be sometime in November before I sit down and do upload, because I want to binge all the episodes of Upload. So so we're gonna just keep watching. I'm gonna keep watching X Files for the time being because it's on Freevee. I don't know how long it's gonna be on Freevee, so I'm gonna be watching X Files for the time being until I can't watch them no more. It's been interesting. It's been interesting seeing people for the first time, like the Lone Gunman and A.D. Skinner and Deep Throat and Cigarette Smoking Man. So, you know, we're going to continue doing that. But, so yeah, Friday is another video, and then I'll see you again on Monday. But in the meanwhile, thanks for watching.